Welcome to the Belated Tech Channel 74th edition and second year of the Space and Tech Rewind. We are reviewing the milestones that occurred on each day in the week of November 8th through November 14th in space exploration, science, and technology. November 8th, 1942. Jean-Jacques Barry's clandestine rocket program in Vichy, France was suspended on this date. He and his team were about to launch the EA-1941 rocket for the first time in Algeria, which was Vichy, France territory. A third of the test material for the test flights had been unloaded in Oran, an Algerian port city, and the team and the rest of the material were ready to embark at Marseille. However, the Allies had just launched an invasion of North Africa, leading to Germany seizing control of all of mainland France and dissolving the Vichy government. Despite the fact that Germany occupied half of mainland France since the latter's military collapsed in June of 1940, the French collaborationist government attempted to develop rocket technology in secret under the Wehrmacht's noses, which was developing its own rockets in Peenemünde, Germany. After Vichy France's collapse, Barry went into hiding for almost 2 years. With the Allied Army's seizure of Paris in September of 1944, he was able to return and resume the program, finally launching the EA-1941 rocket in March of 1945. We covered Jean-Jacques Barry's contribution to the French space program and to space exploration in general in episode 35. November 9th, 1967. Apollo 4, which consisted of the CSM-17 command module and the LTA-10R lunar module, was lifted into Earth orbit by a Saturn V rocket from the Kennedy Space Center's Launch Complex 39A on this date. The launch consisted of several firsts. It was the first use of Launch Complex 39, it was the first full test of a Saturn V rocket, and it was the first full test of the lunar lander that would eventually be used on the moon. The mission was supposed to have occurred in 1966, but severe program management and fabrication quality problems by North American Aviation resulted in delays on the command module and the second stage of the Saturn V. Both NAA assemblies had arrived before the planned Apollo 1 manned launch, which was to use the same model command module also built by the company. However, during a pre-launch test, the entire Apollo 1 crew was killed by an electrical short and resulting fire in that command module. North American sacked the entire program management team, and NASA demanded thousands of corrections to the Apollo 4 assemblies, necessarily delaying that mission's launch date. We covered the replacement of North American Aviation's Apollo program management team with William Bergen and his team from the Martin Company in Milestones 25, which will be available again soon for interested subscribers. Check back with the channel for updates. November 10th, 1885. The world's first motorcycle, designed by Gottlieb Daimler, made its first significant test run on this date. Daimler's 17-year-old son, Paul, traveled from Cannstatt to Untertürkheim and back. Their Reitwagen had a wooden frame and wheels. A leather drive belt ran between the engine and large brass gears in the rear wheel. With no suspension on the wheels, the leather saddle gave a very uncomfortable ride at a speed up to 12 kilometers per hour. The motorcycle had a single-cylinder engine with a bore of 58 millimeters, a stroke of 100 millimeters, and a displacement of 264 cc's. The engine gave half a horsepower at 700 RPM. Two smaller spring-mounted outrigger wheels provided some stability. This was built as an experimental vehicle to test the new Daimler engine in a proof of concept, which was to power Daimler's first motorized carriage the following year. Want to know how to navigate our channel content? We refer to tech documentary segments as episodes. Coverage of current events in space exploration, science, and technology are labeled as shorts. Space and tech history are documented in an anthology called Milestones. Gameplay recordings can be discovered on the Belated Tech Gaming channel in videos called walkthroughs and side missions. Reviews of tools and equipment hail from the Tool Crib. and reviews of small electronics and appliances arrive by way of the radio shed. Looking for a specific video on our channel that we may have mentioned in one of our other videos? Links to those episodes can be found in the description section below. Also, we have begun labeling our video titles with numbers, such as M105 for Milestones 105 or S49 for Short 49, so viewers can perform a title search. Finally, you can peruse our entire 300+ video library by looking at our playlists, which conveniently sort videos by subject. November 11th, 1905. The last worker death on the Panama Canal project from yellow fever was recorded on this date. The subsequent official 1906 report for the Panama Canal was entered into the U.S. Congressional Record, declaring that yellow fever in the canal zone had been abolished. Yellow fever had killed thousands of workers at the Panama Canal construction site. So many workers died each week that a special train was needed to relocate their corpses. On June 26, 1900, Surgeon General George Sternberg formed the Yellow Fever Commission to fight against the cause and spread of the deadly disease. Dr. Walter Reed was appointed officer in charge. He organized the research, identified the disease was spread by the bites of infected mosquitoes, and took control action to save lives. We covered the death of Dr. Jesse Lazier, who was part of Reed's team in Cuba that discovered the link between mosquitoes and malaria, in Milestones 15, which will again be available to subscribers. November 12, 1956. The largest iceberg on record was sighted by the aptly named USS Glacier, a U.S. Navy icebreaker about 150 miles west of Scott Island in the southern hemisphere on this date. It had broken from the Ross Ice Shelf in the Antarctic. Its size was about the size of Belgium, 208 miles long and 60 miles wide. The USS Glacier, commissioned in 1955, was at the time of her construction the largest icebreaker ever built. This record iceberg was many times larger than any seen in the Northern Hemisphere, where the largest iceberg on record was encountered near Baffin Island in 1882. That iceberg was 8 miles long by 4 miles wide, had a freeboard, or height above water, of about 66 feet, and a mass in excess of 9 billion tons. For comparison, the iceberg that sank the Titanic in 1912 was thought to be 50 to 100 feet high and 200 to 400 feet long, minuscule against the size of the Baffin Island and Scott Island icebergs. Have you agreed with our choices, or do you think there are other events in space and tech history that are better? Go ahead and share with us by dropping a comment below. If you have suggestions for a space and tech milestone, let us know. We'll credit events we pick for future videos to those viewers that post them. We hope you have been enjoying our content. Have we earned your subscription to our channel? If yes, and you have not taken the opportunity to subscribe, please take a moment to do so now and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss upcoming videos. We want to continue delivering great content to you. You can always unsubscribe, and subscribing is free. November 13th, 1855. A proposal for a tunnel under the English Channel was reported in the New York Daily Times on this date. According to French engineer Leopold Favre, the tunnel connecting Boulogne to Dover could be built in 5 years. The passage would be 18.5 miles long, including the 1.5 mile approach to the channel at each end. Excavated at no less than 82 feet below seabed, the tunnel would be lined with a double arch, one of granite and impermeable cement, and an inner arch of thin iron plates with perforations to reveal even slight leakage. Instead of smoke-producing locomotives, an atmospheric railway using a compressed air tube would carry passengers and freight such as coal. Ventilation shafts would rise above the highest water level in islands formed by excavated rock. The proposal never resulted in a funded project. It took over a century to get the two countries, the UK and France, to agree to build a tunnel, and for the funding to fall into place. Construction began in 1988, and traffic through the tunnel began in 1994. The tunnel connects Folkestone, England with Coquelles, France, and is 23.5 miles in length and as much as 250 feet below sea level. The maximum speed of trains through the tunnel is 100 miles per hour. Demand for cross-channel traffic is sufficiently high to require ferry service from Dover to Calais. The ferries move about as much freight and passengers as the tunnels. November 14th, 1969. Apollo 12, consisting of the CSM-108 command module and the LM-6 lunar lander, launched on a Saturn V rocket from the Kennedy Space Center's Launch Complex 39A on this date. The crew included astronauts Bean, Conrad, and Gordon. The mission entered moon orbit on November 17th and then landed on the moon 2 days later. The lunar module lifted off the moon on November 20th and docked with the command module, which then, after completing its 45th lunar orbit, traveled back to Earth. The Apollo 12 mission ended on November 24th with a successful splashdown. The objective of Apollo 12 was largely take lunar samples and run a number of scientific tests. However, it also had a secondary objective, to recover the Surveyor 3 spacecraft that had landed nearby on April 16, 1967. The crew successfully photographed and removed several components of the probe, returning to the lunar lander. Surveyor 3 is the only probe visited by humans on another world. On October 27, 2021, Boeing announced it is taking an additional $185 million charge against its earnings to cover the costs to troubleshoot and return its CST-1000 Starliner commercial crew vehicle to the launch pad, following an abort of the OFT-2 flight in August. The company announced the charge in its release of its second quarter financial results. Boeing had already taken a $410 million charge in January of 2020 to cover the costs resulting from the software failure experienced during the OFT-1 launch in December of 2019. OFT-2 was scrubbed hours before scheduled liftoff when valves in the spacecraft's propulsion system failed to open. Engineers found that 13 valves were stuck shut, most likely when nitrogen tetroxide propellant seeped through the valves and mixed with moisture, creating nitric acid that corroded the valves. NASA has since reshuffled ISS replacement crews to SpaceX, which continues to launch Dragon crew capsules on its Falcon 9 rocket. We hope you enjoyed this 74th episode of BELATED Tech Space and Tech Rewind. If so, click that like button. Don't forget to subscribe or just stay in touch by following us on our microblogging accounts, which are listed below, as well as in the community feed for this channel. We announce all new videos on those outlets. Stay connected by occasionally checking our Instagram feed and Minds page, where we post content from our upcoming episodes and from episodes past that you may have missed, and where we cover current news and events related to channel content. Thanks for watching.